Hello, I can't hear anything. Is it just me?
Yes, we were on mute for a moment.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, you guys ready to get started?
Yep.
So thanks for coming. This meeting today is actually for you. So what I mean by that is I'm going to explain a bit about the course, but primarily what I'm interested in is making sure you get questions answered. Simply, which money do I bring, these kind of things. If you have any questions like that, please ask. If we don't cover it during the presentation, okay? So this is part content for the class of why we go there, what we do there, and then the other part is all the little things that happen on a trip. You know, what we're going to do over there, where are we going? You know, can I eat McDonald's food when I'm there? These kind of questions that people tend to have. Okay? So that's the idea. And then we've got some people online, so I want to be cognizant of them when they have questions. So if you're on Hangouts, make sure that you keep in touch with Rachel, and we'll answer your questions also. Chances are, if one of you has a question, you all have the same question, so don't be shy. Okay, so we're going to go through the framework of the program. Why Beijing? Why Saigon? And what do we do for 2 weeks? And then some Q&A. Daniel Wong is going to be my co-instructor. I will be there on this trip the first week in Vietnam, and Daniel will take over the second week in Beijing. So that's kind of how we'll do it. More on that. Okay. So it's supposed to be experiential as well as academic. So what that means is I've done many of these now, and I have it kind of down to a science of what you all would like to see culturally, what kind of free time you would like, and then also what academic experience you want. So in the mornings, generally, the way it will go is we'll have discussions about what we're about to see, and we'll also have a discussion about what we saw the day prior. And we'll go through that in a minute. The evenings are yours, so I highly recommend that you kind of team up and see what's out there. Both cities are relatively safe for the most part. The things that I would tell you to stay away from are things like food carts. Food carts are cool in Portland. Food carts are not healthy elsewhere at times. You know, that banh mi sandwich you see at 6 p.m. was in that cart at 9 a.m. in the blazing sun all day. So it's all up to you. Some people have stomachs made of cast iron, others don't. And I just don't want you guys to get sick and not enjoy the trip. So in all truthfulness, this really is suggested. You know, stay away from things that usually don't sit well with you. Just because it's new, don't try it. Try it near the end, whatever. There's nothing worse than having a stomach problem on a 17-hour flight. Trust me. Okay. I say 7 teams at 4. It will divide you up. Generally, the right size of the team is 4. What we're looking to do is every one of these visits, you will be auditing them as suppliers. Actually, as new suppliers potentially, or as part of a team that might be representing that customer or things like that. So if we're looking at Mercedes-Benz in Vietnam, you might be a customer that's going to do some business with Mercedes and want to buy a fleet of cars. Or you might be looking at a 3D printer and you represent an engineering company that wants to look at 3D printing as a taking it inside and making sure that that service can be provided. So you're really taking a critical eye to every one of these visits, because the idea is through, this is the book that's required, and you'll get a syllabus in a couple weeks. And this is on the supplier scorecards. And what you're going to be doing every day is actually analyzing through a scorecard and reporting out to everybody else, all the other teams, whether you would recommend it and why, or not recommend them as a supplier and why. And you can all look at it from the variety of lenses of, you might have procurement represented on your team, you might have quality represented on your team, you might have engineering or design or marketing represented on your team, so there is marketing in this particular visit as well. So all of those are traditionally people that would go and visit as important suppliers. So you would report out to everybody and say, we selected them and we think they're great, or we think that they're not capable and why, and then we have a discussion openly in class. Make sense? This one has some great ideas on scorecards and scorecard development, and I mentioned in the syllabus what pages to find those on. specifically that I want you to use, or you can use the HP method, which is also in the syllabus. Either one is fine, and they're both considered really standards in business. Okay, so does that make sense to people what you're kind of doing? The reason this is important is every time you go on a visit, you're going to be allowed to ask questions of the people that are heading up the visits, and they're the ones that are going to have the answers that you might not have seen on the factory floor, what you thought you saw, or how do you manage that thing? I saw this and it didn't make sense to me, those kind of things. So those in-depth questions are really the richness of the trip. How well does that person answer them? Do they represent the factory well? Is that someone that you would want to do business with, in addition to what you saw? Make sense? So that's the idea behind how we run the course. And you'll be split up in teams between MBA students and supply chain students. So you'll have a pretty common mix among each of the teams. Okay? As I mentioned, evenings are open for you. We're going to have an expectations paper that's due the first week of August. So what do you think you're going to see over there? And then you'll come back to that paper after you're done with the trip. What did you actually see? Did you think you would see factories like this, and I actually saw that? Or did this, I thought I saw this, and I was actually confirmed that I saw that? That's what I thought I was going to see. That make sense? So it's just a little reflection paper at the beginning, and then what I would recommend you do is actually keep this as a running log while you're there. So every day when you go on a company visit, just go back to your room, or we're going to be on a bus a lot. Bring your tablet or whatever device you want, and just write a couple paragraphs on what we just saw and what your team decided. And that way you just keep up with it every day, and then you already have like 3/4 of your paper done. Because you can compare that, a couple of the visits. You can either use 2 of the visits or use an overall visit, however you want to approach it. That's my recommendation on how you do it. Some people do it differently, but I think there is some downtime because in Asia, everything is like an hour and a half away. I don't know why. It always is an hour and a half away. In Thailand, in Bangkok, it's an hour and a half away, and it's only down the street because the traffic's so bad. So it just depends. But if you're going to have downtime in the bus, use it. We'll also use the bus ride on the way back for questions and answers that come top of mind, just after we got through with that factory visit, that I'm happy to answer on what we saw, what we didn't see, why was that there? Anything is open. The reason I do that is because there is some amount of decorum that goes with asking questions to the people who are running the factories. Most of these people are giving up their time and doing this as a favor for us. So I would prefer you not say, why were there children working in your factory? Instead, say, what's the criteria for people working? How do you find employees? What do you do? And then we can talk about the children labor. I'm not suggesting we're going to see that, because I haven't seen it, but that's the kind of question I would prefer you not. We're not trying to put them on the spot, okay? We're trying to take advantage of their kindness, and then we'll talk about what we thought later. You'll see factories that aren't any good, purposely. You'll also see factories that are awesome. You'll see Mercedes-Benz cars completely built 100% by hand. There's no automation in that factory. So that probably goes counter to what you thought you'd see, especially from a high-end quality car like Mercedes. So these are things that you're going to see for the first time going, that just doesn't make sense to what I would have thought. So those are the kind of things that I would like to have rich discussions about. And then it's okay to ask that Mercedes guy, why don't you have any automation? That's a question that's totally fair. Okay, so you guys know the difference between the nuance between what questions you should ask and not ask, I think. All right? Just a few facts on Asia. The things I want to make sure is by 10 years from now, the overall share of the output of the economy in the world is shifting far to Asia. Asian wealth is projected to grow dramatically. We see that. You'll see that in Saigon. I'll go through a couple of slides on that. Our exports and imports are both linked to Asia. And of course, the consumers in both countries that we're going to see are large. So we'll actually have visits that cover almost all of these particular areas. So you'll see new products and specific around design with 3D printing. We'll talk about markets and channels depending on whether we're talking with 3PL or whatnot. We'll see some sourcing stuff. You'll definitely see lean, or you will see no lean. You'll see people talk about lean and then not be lean. So we'll point those out. Logistics providers are there. And a little bit on analytics as we go through it. And you definitely see things on, you're seeing this more and more, the closed loop and sustainability stuff, even in Asia. Okay, so this is becoming more and more important. So some of them will talk about it, some of them won't. That's a fair question to ask. Do you guys consider this? Do you think it's important? So I kind of view this through the lens of if you are a team and you're looking for scorecards, you should be measuring these kind of things. Continuity of supply is the most important thing in supply chain. MBA students do not know that, but that is the key. Why do you think that is? In this classroom, anybody? So if you're running a 24/7 factory, what can you knock back? Time. Okay? So even if I pay more, I got to keep the machine running. This is the burden that Intel has, right? Multi-billion-dollar factories, and if they're not running at 97% utilization, they're losing money because they can never get that time back. So anything highly capitalized, so you'll see in Asia, what? You might see more labor content than machine because it allows them to overcome this kind of interruption if it does occur. Because things in China, like rolling brownouts, they occur. Okay? So those are the kind of questions you also might want to ask. How do you consistently make sure you have energy to run the factory 7 days a week? These things that you assume here should not be assumed over there. Okay? And then, of course, how the impact is on profitability and what's their competitive advantage and all those things. This is just a repeat chart of what I've shown in some supply chain classes, that it's really not about labor as much, it's about material. So these are all industries at the bottom. You can see that for things like computers, 60 to 80% COGS is parts. Okay, so when we're looking at the lens over there of developing a scorecard, is this the kind of business that we really need to do in China or in Vietnam? Or what's our purpose of being there? Is it low cost, or is it to achieve entrance into a market? Those are another kind of things that you want to look at. We're looking at Mercedes-Benz in Vietnam. Is it because we want to sell cars in Vietnam? Or is it I'm trying to get cheap labor so I can export those somewhere else? Does that make sense? So this is the labor piece. You can see, like in some of these, computer electronics labor is only 9% of the cost of goods sold for a computer. For food, it's almost nothing. For apparel, it's only 16%, yet all apparel is made offshore. Okay? So it's okay to ask the question why. Now, 16% is a lot if we're talking about millions and millions of shoes, right? So it's a matter of scale as well. So understanding that is important. Some things you might not know, there's actually more patents granted to the Chinese than the US last few years. Their production has been huge. It's actually going down, but what this doesn't help you with is the productivity that they've also improved upon. Here's the thing that's really important to think about when you're in Beijing, is by the year 2025, the wage gap is going to be very close to equal to China. So you already see, what are you going to see in China that they're worried about? What do you think they're worried about right now? What, do they want to be making sneakers over there? They want to be making Intel chips over there, right? They want to be making higher-end, higher technology products, while Vietnam is starting to absorb all of their lower technology products. For instance, Nike Vietnam is larger in output than Nike China. Okay, so Nike is already seeing this happening, and so they've been migrating to Vietnam. You see a lot of other companies doing the same thing. But Nike's actually got an antiquated model a little bit, because every shoe made in Vietnam is exported to China. And then so if a consumer in Vietnam wants to buy a pair of Nikes, that shoe in China comes back to Vietnam, and they sell. So they're expensive there. So that's not a, I'm in this to feed the consumer, right? I'm in this for low cost export. That's it. The retail market in China is thriving like crazy. as is the internet sales, but internet sales are not as popular over there, so some of this is cultural, that you guys will walk around like in the evenings and shopping on the weekends. What do you see? Why are all, in China, why are all the shoe manufacturers stores in the same place? They tend to put everything in the same place at the same part of the street. So all the apparel stores would be together, all the musical instrument stores would be together, all the cars would be together. So it's very common. Why do they do that culturally? I think they just want to ask questions about it. Why Vietnam? Basically, all of these statistics show you that it's high GDP growth, stable inflation rates, but the real thing is the mere fact 94 million people all under the age, or 60% over the age of 30. So that's a market, right? So what a lot of people don't realize is Vietnam is a great place to go to enter the market. And some of these people own 2, 3 smartphones. So if you're Apple iPhone sales are actually flat and declining in this country, but they're growing in places like Vietnam. Okay. So you can see this is the age demographic. Their literacy rates are really high. You'll see this and you can feel it while you're there talking to people. So who do we visit? So I call it Saigon. It's called Ho Chi Minh City. Everybody that lives in Saigon calls it Saigon. So we're just going to call it Saigon. The North calls it Ho Chi Minh City because that's where he lived. The South is much different than Hanoi, and you can talk about that when you're there and see the difference in people. You'll see the communist propaganda and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's Saigon. And they have districts within circles. Beijing is the same thing. The first thing we do when we visit is we go to an industrial park, so we see why is it we want to go and build a factory there. What are they doing for us? Are they giving us free duties and custom clearance? What kind of deal can they get us on a building? Would we have better tax benefits? All the things that you would look for if you were to build a building in Asia. Okay, so we start there because that's kind of the high level. Why would we want to put a factory in Vietnam, or why would we want to put it in China? It's one of the first things you'd be asked about if you were a supply chain or operations VP. Where do I put my stuff? Where do I put my distribution center? So how do you optimize that? Okay, there's all kinds of mathematical models where we could go through this, but this is a chance to go and see it. What other companies are in there? Is there any leverage for the same kind of industry that you're thinking about? Are there ways that we can go through pre-customs clearance in a way that is open 24 hours a day? All of these things that you have to think about. I talked about the rolling blackouts over there, brownouts, those kind of things. Okay. Then we go to logistics. We're going to go to DHL or APL logistics, so you can see material coming in and out and the challenges there. And then we're going to have, I hope, Adidas, Nike for sure has already agreed. Adidas, we have an alum from Adidas that's over there now that's going to, at least he'll come talk to you guys. And you'll be able to kind of contrast. You can also see which suppliers they use that are the same. And as you can imagine, so Nike has several suppliers that are 100% Nike content. Whereas Adidas is in a much different boat, and they're sharing with New Balance and Under Armour and. Okay? So the challenges Adidas and Nike have are different. You would say, well, Nike has all this power, but there's also burdens that go with being the only customer. Now you are responsible for the whole place, right? Everybody in it, the management team, all of it. So it's not your factory, but it kind of is, right? So all the mistakes that they make are all on your watch, whereas Adidas makes sure that with Under Armour and others. Okay, so just very different. I already mentioned Mercedes-Benz, and we'll also go to. We want to go to what companies are also born in these countries. So we're going to go to the Vietnamese company for apparel, and then we do, in each country, we have a cultural event that we go to. So in Vietnam, we're going to go to the Mekong Delta. If you don't know, the Mekong Delta flows right from north to south at the top of Vietnam down to the ocean. It's a very, very important part of the culture and the economy there, and it comes right out of China. And China has 22,000 dams, so they could dam it at any minute and destroy Vietnam if they wanted to. So the complexity of that from a supply chain standpoint, do you put your factory there with that potential to happen? So we go there and we see how dependent they are on it, and we get to see how they live and what they do. So it's kind of fun. Get going. Don't drink the water. So in Beijing, these are more tentative, but I had mentioned before, so Hyundai will be a great contrast to Mercedes-Benz. You'll see probably more automation, but I won't say for sure. You can see that. 3D printing, you'll actually see samples of it being printed, which is great. UPS, you get to compare a very small amount of non-complex products being shipped out of Vietnam in and out to a very highly complex logistics model in China. Okay. Lenovo or Intel, one's a customer of the other. Lining potentially as an apparel. So does everybody know who Lining is? They're the Nike of China, basically. And they're based in Beijing. And then we go to the Great Wall. So that's our cultural experience in China. I don't know what part of the Great Wall you're going to, and hopefully you're not going to go to the commercial part.
We're trying not to, yeah.
Try not to. So when you go on this part, make sure that you watch where you're walking, because China doesn't have the same laws as we do as far as, like, you could walk out a door and there's so the farther you go out to the Great Wall, the more stuff is broken. It's cooler to look at because the bricks are really old and it's neat, but it's also so logistics. So far, do you have any questions on what the class is about? It's the content of basically teams. You're reviewing suppliers' capabilities and all the things that go into that, including CSR. So CSR is a big part. I want you to look at it with a real critical eye. Is there boxes piled up against goals? We're also going to look at the metrics on the board of every factory you go into. If they don't have metrics where you can see it, what is the story they're trying to tell us? And is everything good news? Because if everything's good news, then it's all BS. Because every factory should be attacking the things that they don't do well and showing the employees. So all those things we'll point out as we walk around. Okay? And the idea is that you're going to be more comfortable walking through factories in the future regardless of what kind of company you work for. All right? Does that class content make sense to everybody? Yeah, just like online. Okay.
So you have 7 teams, and each team is going to give a team to say, hey, it's going to be different across all of them.
Yeah. So and we kind of keep track, and part of the fun is there's always the team that never qualifies anyone. They won't do business with anyone. So that's not realistic, right? And then there's the other team that's all rainbows and unicorns and goes, hey, everybody's great. So, and then there's somewhere in between. So we talk through that, right? And why do they think they're great and these guys think they're terrible? And somewhere in the middle might be the truth, or one might be actually accurate over the other. So, you know, it's kind of fun, because as the trip goes on, you start to see certain things that you didn't recognize before. Yes?
How many people are on the trip?
34?
36.
36.
We just added 2 more. So 36 students in total, and then the 3 of us that you see. So I will be traveling and be there for logistics support as well with you all. Pardon?
So it's more than 17.
Yeah, well, by the time we'll keep adding them, so it might be 18. That's fine. We have 30, 35. So, okay, the hotel we're staying at, the Caravel in Saigon is super safe. I think we don't have it loaded up yet. The D2L site, I have to open it up. I will put a video on, or Rachel might, put a video on there that shows you how to cross the street in Vietnam. Has anybody ever been?
I can cross.
Know how to cross.
So there's like millions of scooters there, and there's not really any traffic lights. So what happens is you just have to go. And you just go, and you keep the same cadence. And if you keep the same cadence, you won't get hit. But if you speed up or slow down, it's not. So you just have to kind of get used to it. I'll show you when we get there. Okay?
Just be confident.
Yeah, I mean,
Follow a local, if use them as kind
use
of
them
your
as a
block.
human shield. I've done that.
That works as well, but like Cliff said, just walk like a lemming walking off of a cliff. If you remember Lemmings or ever saw that game, that's.
But by day 2, you don't even notice it anymore. It's just the first day where you kind of go, wow, this is like chaos. Because it is. It's controlled chaos. And then you go to Beijing, and it's completely different. Okay? So it's part of the fun of Saigon. It's this whole street life, you know, and it's a very young country, so they're out late, and they're on their scooters. Scooters are cheap, so it's easy transportation. You know, we have fun with it. You know, when we're on the bus trips, who sees the most people on a scooter? The record that I've seen is a family of 7 with a dog. So beat that. But I've also seen 70-inch television sets on these things. I've seen concrete blocks. I mean, we've seen it all.
It's great balance.
It takes something.
So why Saigon and Beijing? Why not other cities in these countries?
Saigon is really probably the fastest growing manufacturing center in Asia right now. And in Beijing, they have quite a few factories there. There's more factories in Shanghai, but culturally, Beijing is a much better place to go to. So you get to balance the factory and go to, I mean, right around the, I don't know exactly where this hotel is, but pretty close to right around the corner is Tiananmen Square and People's Palace.
The Forbidden City. We're very close to all those, so you can
First night there, just walk down. So you can see everything. I mean, it's one of the oldest countries in the world, right? So that's why we go to Beijing, and then Saigon is just a super vibrant, this conundrum between all these young consumers and all these new manufacturing jobs and rising wealth and all the challenges with that. So that's, I mean, we could go other places, but we've done this for a while now, and the students always seem to like these places. So Caravel Hotel is really nice, and it's really a good part. It's not on the street where you have to cross the street. A lot of hotels, you literally walk out the front door and you're crossing the street, so we didn't want to do that to you. So we give you a few steps of warming up before you get to the street. And when we get there, for those that travel, when I'm at 10:30 at night or so, I'll show you kind of where to go. Okay. The hotel in Beijing is not the one I've stayed at before, so.
No. In the same area, though.
Same area? Okay. Yeah. You want to go through the lodging?
Yeah, sure. So the main thing about, I'll just kind of go over the main things that people usually have questions about, but if you have questions about anything else, I know I've been sending you information. I just sent another pre-departure packet, or Jeffrey rather sent that within the past 2 days. So you can take a look, but I can also answer any questions tonight. So as most of you know, or should know by now, you're double occupancy unless you've paid for and elected for otherwise. And so we have that set up. I think 1 or 2 folks have elected to purchase hotels extra nights before and after, and so we have that set up, and our logistics partner will be sending you an email if you've chosen that to arrange payment shortly. And I don't think we actually had an odd number of people. I think it ended up working out perfectly with those who had elected otherwise. So yes.
So classes are will that end on Friday at 5. Is our hotel room through Friday, check out Saturday, or are we?
It's check out on Saturday.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
It will be.
Will be? Okay. And it's okay if you're wanting to check out Friday night. If you just give me a heads up ahead of time, we can arrange that. But you paid your fees through that, so we have that through that piece so that people are leaving on the 27th, right?
How many are going early?
Quite a few.
So maybe
Right.
you could spend a few minutes before you go and just tell you something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, some idea.
And so I know some people elected to choose roommates. If you didn't, we just automatically assigned you. I will post that to D2L. If you want to make any changes to that, that's easy. Just email me, let me know. But that'll be posted to D2L as soon as we get the site up. And if you have questions about that, you're welcome to email me as well. So what we typically do is, typically you're responsible for getting yourselves to and from the airport to the locations. However, for this trip, since so many of you are traveling, so many of us are traveling on the same flights going to and out of, we are arranging one major group transfer at the most common time, both going to the airport, coming to the hotel from the airport, and then departing as well. I think that gets almost 2/3 of the trip, actually, so it's easier logistically for everyone. And so that on the arrival time is that 9:35. It was originally scheduled for that 10:35. It was the one that I sent out in the packet. I think it's now backed up, so we get in a little bit earlier, which is nice. And we'll kind of try to take people up until that 10:45 because people roll through customs. So for those of us that get there a little earlier, we'll hang for about a half an hour until we get the rest of folks through customs. I will just double check and I'll make sure I have a list of folks who we're looking for. But should you not make that or you're not in that group, and we'll talk about this in a second, you'll just take a taxi, and it's a very easy taxi ride in Ho Chi Minh City from the airport to the hotel. And then the same happens on the departure times, and I know there are several folks who are later into the day, 2:30, 1:30, and if you want to join that group transfer on that day, you'll just let me know in country, and we'll absolutely take care of you, and you can just jump on that earlier bus to the hotel, to the airport. But so as far as what you would do if you're traveling independently on either of those sides, when you get into Saigon, it's about an $8 taxi. That's what you should expect. So the conversion rate, which we'll talk about, is quite high. So if you want to switch this slide, sorry. So it's 200,000 dong is what it is to $8. It's about 21,000 dong to the dollar. So that's something that you'll want to get used to very quickly. It's commonly confused. The 200,000 and the 20,000 look a lot alike, so you'll want to pay attention to that as you're using the currency there. But it should be right around 200,000 dong to get from the airport to the hotel. They'll know the caravel. We'll send you more information and you have the address, so just write down the address and they will know the caravel. The big thing is you want to get in marked taxis. If they're unmarked, you don't want to take them. They should have a meter as well, and so just have them turn on the meter. If they're being resistant, just have them turn on the meter. But they should be regulated as long as you get into a marked taxi. Departing, it's about a 40-minute drive from the hotel to the airport in Beijing, and you'll be able to arrange, if you're transferring independently, a transfer through the hotel front desk, and it'll be around $22. You can also take a train, but a taxi is probably going to be the easiest, and it should be about 120 RMB. Yep. Yep. And then, so just a couple other things people typically ask questions about: packing and dress expectations, which was just in that packet that I sent out. But the big thing to know is that obviously we're going to be in factories throughout the 2 weeks. And so factory dresses, you're wanting to be formal. I typically like to tell people to be a little more conservative, especially in Asia, in their dress. And in factories, everyone needs to have closed-toed shoes. Heels, if you're wanting to wear heels, are fine sometimes, but some of the factories, I would definitely bring a pair of flats and always have that pair of flats with you, because every once in a while you hit a factory with grading, right, that you cannot walk on in heels. So, and know that you're going to be walking a lot, so make sure that whatever shoes you're bringing, you're comfortable in for 2 weeks with a lot of walking in factories. Any questions about dress?
But I would say dress for the heat.
Yep.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be really hot.
And it's a little less formal in Saigon than for sure in China. So, and it's going to be hotter there.
You know, just a pair of slacks or Dockers or whatever, and a dress shirt, one that's not too heavy. You don't have to wear a tie. Beijing will probably be a little more formal, but instructors will have ties on, so we cover it for you. But you know, but don't dress in jeans. I mean, that's just not. And besides that, you can buy pants that are more comfortable than jeans when it's hot. So just think of it that way. So just bring a couple of collared shirts and your slacks and some shoes that are comfortable. We'll be doing a lot of walking. At night, I would highly recommend bringing clothes that are like shorts, and it's going to be hot.
And that are loose, and it's also going to be humid, right? very humid in both locations. So just know that. Know you're probably not going to want clothes that cling to you a lot. Anything cooler is going to be great.
Laundry.
Good question. So in Saigon, we have had our concierge there at the Caravel has been kind and sent out. You can do it through the hotels. It's more expensive. It's a lot more expensive. But in Vietnam, again, we can work with you, and you can ask me, and I can work with the concierge.
We have contacts.
We have contacts. So we send out. So typically we send it out there to a local laundromat that you pay by the pound, and they'll bring it back to you within 24 hours.
Super cheap.
It's cheap, but they are heavy on the perfume. So just be forewarned about that. Your clothes may come back smelling more than you want them to. So if you're sensitive to smells, that's something that we'll try to let them know, but we can't guarantee.
This is all about volume for these people. So if you're not too picky, you just want a big clean, this is a great service. If you're really picky or you have some expensive clothes, I would go with hotel.
Absolutely. And in Beijing, I am less familiar with some laundry places there, but we will have local guides in each country that are with us throughout the time who will also be able to help us kind of decipher that. But
Because that informs how to pack too. Like how much
Absolutely.
you bring, how often.
Yep. That's a great question.
absolutely.
And so what's the answer to that?
How much fat?
Yeah, it's like 3 days worth of stuff because laundry be done so often, or is it a whole week worth of
It
stuff?
really just depends on you. I mean, you know, if you're one of those people that can't stand wearing a shirt twice, or sweats a lot, or you know, it just depends on you and what you're comfortable with. You know, some people actually go to Walmart, and guys do this anywhere, and buy a bunch of undershirts and stuff and just chuck them. You know, so whatever, it works for you. The thing that you have to remember about packing, and this goes to airlines and luggage concerns, is that they make up the rules as they go. So they've caught on to this awesome thing the American Airlines have done, which is charge you for extra baggage and weight and all that stuff, and they exploit it. So if you're one of those people that doesn't want to pay any extra money for baggage, it's going to be hard because you're going to be going to 2 different countries for 2 weeks, and in some Asian countries it's only 28 kilos, which isn't very much.
22.
22, and your suitcase could weigh 10. So weigh it a couple times at home if it's really important to you, but if you go to their website and you try to understand what their charges are, they'll change them. So we've had this problem for years. You just point to their website and they'll just play like they don't know who did that, but that's not what we're doing today.
And so typically what we ask and what I suggest to students is that if you're going to take 50 pounds or try to take enough clothes for the entire time, and you're a decent packer, then I have made it through without having to pay luggage fees. But if you're just plan for it. So what we ask is that you plan for it if you're not an excellent packer, because just know that it's about $200. We actually built that into your cost estimates of the trip. We build in $200 for luggage fees into your financial aid budgets, knowing that you might get hit with that. And so it's better to just expect it and to take the hit on the chin, if you will, when it happens, rather than to fight it. Since we're traveling in a group of 39 people, it becomes super difficult if 5 people jump out of line to shift things around to try to not get hit with that. So we ask that you be mindful of the fact that you're traveling in a large group, right? And that we're trying to get everyone through the process quickly. So do what you can and just plan accordingly. You can get through, absolutely, without getting hit with luggage fees. Some students are excellent. We've seen some great endeavors throughout the years of of making it 4 weeks in Asia with tiny.
One student 4 weeks in Asia with one little tiny thing.
Yep, that was a carry-on size.
He did it, but he did.
Yep. So
So if we do want to travel light, will there be some maybe shopping around the hotel in Vietnam that we can kind of load up there?
absolutely.
You can also have tailored stuff made there.
Double station, right?
So
We can take you to Taylor's.
yeah, they're everywhere. There's even tailors in Beijing that aren't that bad.
Yeah.
The dressing is a full stack program, or is it half this?
That's full.
Is it full hand?
Yeah.
Any other questions about luggage packing?
It's just, it's a big, we only emphasize it because it's always if somebody gets freaked out because it's a big hassle factor and you don't leave room for stuff that you wanted to bring home, you realize you're going to buy this stuff and there's, you know, all this other stuff to consider and we can't know for you, so we're just trying to warn you. Hopefully it'll just be no problem. And try to stay with the group when we're in the airport, because there's 39 of us, and it's hard for everybody to keep track of everybody, so we don't want somebody deciding that they forgot something in the taxi or whatever happened and they're gone. And then we get on the plane, they're not there.
So a larger rolling bag and a backpack should be fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So the airline here will charge also, but it's usually it's on a different calculation. I think it's
usually 50 pounds.
50 pounds. And
Yeah.
they'll charge you for that. So, and some of the airlines have taken away the free bag on international, so you have to pay anyway, even if you have one bag. So they just keep squeezing. Every year it gets harder and harder.
I used to make a cheat sheet, and then it became obsolete within a day. So.
Professionalism expectations, that was just the, that has to do with dress and has to do with questions that I already covered. So just think about that when you're, think about what this person, usually these people are very proud to show you what they have, even if you are seeing critical things with their factories and their companies. So, just make sure you think about that when you ask them questions. Money, it's super cheap in Vietnam, it's super cheap. Beijing's a little more expensive, but it's really not very expensive to eat in either one of those countries. And I'm talking decent places to eat. The money you'll spend is going to be on stuff you want to buy. I get by with, I don't know, about 500-600 RMB in China, and then I bring like $1 million.
Remind me what that translates to.
Think about 200,000 equals $10. If you want tailored shirts, bring more. I mean, that's the kind of thing I would think about. It's a cash society for the most part, so if you bring your credit card, they may or may not take it. I would highly recommend before you go, if you are bringing a Visa card, call the number on the back and tell them you're going to be in Saigon and you're going to be in Beijing, because you try to use it and they're going to go, whoa, stolen card, and they'll cut you off. I've seen those things happen too. So.
And I typically like to, as far as tipping culture in both places, it's slowly eased in. It's less than 15% here, but you should be tipping at least a small amount, especially if porters, for example, are taking your luggage. So I typically like to take currency with me, so I at least have some on me before I get into country, just in case you run into any of those issues or encounters when you first get there. So AAA right down the road does exchanges. If you're a AAA member, I think it's a flat fee for it. Wells Fargo also, if you're a Wells Fargo, if you bank with them, it's free. If not, it's a small fee to exchange currency with them. For Vietnamese dong, you will have to order it ahead of time, so I think they typically need about 7 days, 7 business days ahead of time. But
and you have to order it out of the downtown,
yep.
down on 6th Street or 5th Street or whatever it is.
Yeah, and typically I just don't, as far as pulling out money there, ATMs are fine. I just definitely recommend general rule of travel, don't pull out in the airports, because that's, if there's going to be a scam fraud, that's usually where the ATMs that are going to get hit. We haven't had that happen in either one of these countries for the past several years, but that doesn't mean it can't happen, right? So I definitely recommend just waiting, and there are ATMs near our places at both hotels. So waiting until you get further into the city.
I would not recommend taking all of your money every day with you. I would find a way to use your safe in your room. It's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but people have lost money before. you know, and if you lose everything you got on day 3, it's a bummer, right? So be careful. Try to decide what you need for when you're going out. Just bring that. Your passport, you don't need to bring it out with you in the evenings. No one's going to bug you for the most part, unless you get into trouble, which I hope you won't. And so, again, passport, when you bring it with you at night, you're just looking to get it lost or get it stolen. So these are the kind of things that I would just recommend you trust the safe in your room a little bit. If you bring this stuff, it falls out of your pocket or somebody takes it from you when you're not looking, you just don't want that to happen.
So I'm sorry, is that just for Saigon? Is that
So,
For both. And something to know is that in China, you're actually mandated, you're supposed to be carrying your passport and or a copy of your passport on you at all times. So what I recommend is make a copy of your passport, have that with you just in whatever wallet you're carrying around as a backup should you get caught and need to have that. It's best to have a notarized copy is like the most ideal, but nobody does that. A copy will be just fine. And make sure that you have it. I always, right before I travel, I take a scanned copy, make sure I have access to it on my phone, take a scanned copy of your visas, just in case anything happens, so that you have access to it as well.
yeah, so that's money. Just be mindful of what you've got. In Saigon and a few places, people get kind of lost around all the zeros. So they will take advantage of you sometimes if they think you don't know. Like if you just hold out the money, take what, you know, I don't know. They'll take advantage. So just be careful. Try to take a minute after 3 beers at dinner to calculate what it costs to buy that, whatever you're buying, and do that.
How is it there?
Awesome.
Yeah.
No beer.
It's
It's not IPA. If you're one of those people, where's the IPA? It's like it's not here. So it's Pilsner beer because it's hot.
So one thing I want to mention about phones is that you are required to have a working cell phone of some sort during this trip for emergency purposes so that we can get in contact with you. We ask that you also activate a small package of texting. So those are the 2 things. You could just have a voice line and text activated on your phone, so should anything happen, we can get in contact with you. There are 2 ways you can do that, and the way we'll kind of talk through and collect this information is we'll send out another Google Forms survey, probably at the beginning of August, so shortly before our trip, and you can either activate your primary carrier, just add a small package. Almost all of the carriers now have small $30 to $60 packages that you can activate for international use that have texting included, and a lot of them have data now included in them as well, a small amount of data. So looking into that, both AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile actually has it for free, so that's usually the easiest option. I also recommend that option because one thing that we'll talk about is if the group wants to use a social media app such as Line, we could also do that to just kind of streamline communication throughout the trip as well. And so if you have your primary phone, then it makes it a little easier to connect to those social media apps. You can also, and when we send out the survey, we'll also send out some information of some other carriers where you could purchase a burner phone and or a local SIM card through them. And then you would just, and in the survey, you just tell us what phone number you're going to be reachable at during the trip. You'll also, we ask you whether you want to actually share that with the rest of your cohort. At the very least, it has to come to faculty so that we have that information, but it's up to you whether you want to share that with the rest of your cohort during the trip. And those that do want to share, then we'll post it to D2L to a secure forum so that you have access to that if you want to get in contact with each other. But at the very least, we need to have that. We'll talk a little bit more about emergency plans in just a second. But so just know that phone form is coming. All you need to do is tell us which option or how you're going about that and what phone number you'll be reachable at and whether you want us to share that with everyone else or just with us. Any questions about that? No?
Expectations of each other, we kind of expect, for those that do have a roommate, kind of just look out for each other, like when we're all gathering, getting ready to go in the lobby in the morning, is your roommate here, so that we don't leave them behind. Some of you may not feel well from time to time, so Rachel will go through it, but text Rachel to let them know that you may not be in class because you don't feel well, or let your roommate know. Just again, so we can keep track of you guys. And when you're in a situation where, one, you're going to be jet lagged at the beginning, it's really warm, and we're going on long bus rides, and it is, class, it can get a little tough on some people, so just have patience, all I would say. I think the biggest thing you have to remember is it's a different environment than it is here, so a lot of new input outputs going on with a lot of people, and some people handle that differently than others, so just be kind and patient, I think, with a lot.
So what is the suggestion for overcoming jet lag? I mean, we're arriving the very next day, going straight into class, right?
Yep.
So you're arriving at 10:30 at night. Try to treat it like it's any other night. So go back to the hotel. Don't stay up till 4 in the morning drinking. Go to bed. Get 3 hours of sleep. Your body's not going to want to go to sleep, but you're going to just get into that routine as soon as possible. And the next day is the hardest. Power your way through it. Do not go back to your room at 5 in the afternoon after our first day and take a nap. If you do that, you're just postponing the problem to the next day. Just power through it as much as you can, even if you only make it to 8 o'clock that night. Just do that and then go to bed, you're fine. For a full week, you're going to wake up at around 2 in the morning every day, going, what's going on? And then just go back to sleep. The best way you can get through jet lag is just power through it, and don't try to fall back on, I'm tired, I want to take a nap. I mean, that works for some, but most doesn't. You just postpone the problem.
And so that's why we actually have you have a full day on that first day, right? Because then we force you to stay awake a little bit past some of the toughest parts of it.
Those that want to run, I run every morning at 5:30. Welcome to come.
That helps.
Not scooters.
There's not very many students at 5:30. So, I mean, that's what works for me. Exercise in the morning, and then I hit it just like I did here. So.
And the other thing that I just wanted to mention that we always talk about with expectations of each other is this is also your trip, but you're also taking care of each other, right? Like there are 36 students. We're here, and I'm here. My primary role is being here for logistical backup. So if someone gets sick and needs to get to a hospital, I'm here for that. We also have, as I mentioned, local guides who will help in that process. But I'm kind of your first point of contact should anything like that happen and you need additional help. But the other thing is that we're not going to be out with you, and I'm sure you all will be out exploring in the evening. So just be mindful of people around you, and we all react different to travel and to being out of our comfort zones. So make sure to take care of each other a little bit and be mindful of who you're leaving at the bar, of who's where, of who might need some downtime, and just let them have that downtime. Just make sure that you are being cognizant of each other. We are traveling in a huge group. So back to logistics, main logistics. So have you all have people received an email with travel insurance? Yes, I'm seeing nods. That's good. So it should have come from, if you didn't, it should have come from announcement@gallaghercoster.com. Check your spam folders. So the big thing I just want to talk about this travel insurance that we automatically enroll you in really quickly. So everyone's on the same policy number, so just know that if you're supposed to, and what I ask is that you print out that card that was an attachment to the email and carry that with you as well. It has the policy number on it. Should you need to go to a hospital and receive any care, having that on you is what you'll need. It also has, the main thing that it has on it is the policy number and also a number for a 24-hour assistance line. So if you don't know where to go, or you're not sure how to pay for it, or have any questions of the travel insurance, those numbers are on that card. To me, those numbers are actually the key. And so print out your card and have it on you. That's a policy of PSU generally. So how it will work though is if you have to receive care there, it's really comprehensive insurance. It includes evacuation insurance should any emergencies happen. It's great insurance, but you do pay for any of your medical care up front. So you pay for it in country out of your own pocket, and then you come back and file a claim and get 100%. It goes up to $200,000 in coverage and can be extended in certain circumstances. But if you end up having a problem, and so if any of you are going to the hospital, the one thing I ask is just at the very least let me know, and or I should go with you, and our local guide will go with you. One thing just to know, I mean, if you haven't been to these places before, you may not be able to communicate with the local staff, so having our local guide present is something that will be super helpful in that process.
So the hospital in Vietnam was like right around.
Yep.
Literally. So, and in the culture of these countries, the hospital is where you go when you're sick, so don't get panicked by we're using the word hospital. That's just where everybody goes, so it's for everything. So if don't be shy if your stomach's really bothering you and it's 4th day in a row, we need to get you some medical attention, and let's go.
Right.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
So I got this email that I registered for the trip, so
we're getting you switched because the dates are actually connected. So we're in process of getting you switched to the right date. So you'll probably get another announcement for this trip.
I traveled a little ahead, like 2 days, 3 days ahead. So, so do I have to buy something for the 3 days?
So you can. It's up to you, and we highly recommend that you look into that. And in that email, there should have been links to their website as well, and you can make that request online to extend on either direction online using the system, and we definitely recommend that. So final things, we've talked about most of this, but the big thing is that we maybe have not talked about is when you get there, I will be arriving at the same time as the vast majority of you, but what I will do is if people can just send me an email if you arrive earlier and or later to let me know that you've arrived safely. So when we get there, because it is my job to check in with the university and to report back everyone has arrived safely. Also, the big thing is, and one of the reasons why we ask you to activate your cell phone is should your flights somehow get delayed in process and you're late coming in, notifying me in one way, whether it's email or via text. Text is a great option, right? So then as soon as I get off the plane, I'll turn on my phone or turn it off from airplane mode, letting me know so that we can follow up, get you from the airport to wherever you need to go. Hasn't happened for a while that we've had people get disconnected or stuck in process, but make sure to let me know that you've arrived safely. We have. It's been a while though. And the other thing is obviously you're managing your own health and wellness in country. We're here to help. Our local guides are here to help. But make sure to bring your own medications with you as far as packing concerns. Don't assume that you can get something in country. I definitely, because I have had stomach issues on trips, usually get a prescription for like Cipro, like stomach antibiotics up front from my doctor ahead of time, just in case I hit anything in country. I have it. I don't have to go somewhere to get it. It's right there. So
let's talk about meals just for a minute.
Yeah.
So all breakfasts are included. Okay. So we'll start most of the classes depending on. We'll cover this the day before on the bus, and also cover it when we exit the classroom. So like on Monday afternoon, we'll talk about what time we meet on Tuesday. Be a little bit flexible, but for the most part, I want to give you guys time to eat breakfast in the morning. So we'll meet between 8:30 or 9 o'clock to start class, and then we'll head out in the afternoon for our visits. So all breakfasts are covered. Some lunches are covered depending on how far the places are from us. Then we might just have lunch included on the bus or at a restaurant when they close by. but there are some times when you're going to be on your own for a month. So just take a look at that. So again, we'll talk about it each day and update you, but just, for some people like to know what's going on with those kind of things, or if you have dietary restrictions, remind us so we know about that. The only thing that we are really truly on your own is in the evenings. And that's purposeful because some people like to really explore. Some people are really into foodies and they like to check it out, and others are more safe about what they eat. So we can help point you in any and all directions. Both of the places we're going are some of the best food places ever. You'll never go back to American Chinese or a pho restaurant after you go there. So that's kind of how the food goes. Does that make sense? On the bus, we generally say it's okay to leave your stuff on the bus, but that's really on you. So if you're one of those people that likes to bring their entire life with them on the bus every morning, when we get out to go on the factory tour, there's not really room to carry a big bag. So, I would try to travel as light as is appropriate for what you're comfortable with. Writing, that's why I say bring a tablet or bring a Surface device or something that you can write on the bus. But the big laptop like this, that's going to be difficult. So you would want to leave that on the bus, and then the bus driver says, "I'll watch it," but it's really up to you guys. Does that make sense? That's why I say passports, money. Anytime you leave stuff somewhere, people are mostly watching out for you, but can't guarantee it.
Right. And so we just can't guarantee the safety of any of that, right? So we can tell you it's probably okay, but it really is your choice. And so the other thing is, obviously, you are traveling on a PSU trip, so you're still held to the code of conduct and ethical travel guidelines that are outlined, and we'll post those again. It's nothing that you don't know, but just know should anything major happen, we do, and PSU always reserves the right to send a student back if you are not displaying well for PSU.
Never had that.
We have not had that happen. That is correct. PSU has had that happen.
Because we should have had it happen.
Right. Absolutely. And so.
But it's not these programs.
Right. And then the last thing that I just want to talk about that will be posted to D2L as well is the emergency plan. So we've talked about a lot of aspects of that, right? The travel insurance, the fact that you'll have working cell phones. So what the emergency plan basically has that will be posted to D2L will be phone numbers for cell phone numbers for Daniel, myself, and Cliff. So our primary points of contact. It'll also have the cell phone numbers for our local guides so that you'll have those. It also has, so should anything happen in country, for example, the first time I traveled on one of our trips, we were in Japan just 5 days before the earthquake hit. The earthquake and tsunami hit. We lucked out. We were in Beijing at that point, but knowing that that can happen when we're abroad, right? So, so should anything happen, the point is we have this emergency plan and we know what we're doing. So should anything happen in country, a natural disaster or otherwise, the main thing to do is, one, make sure that you check in with us, and this is all outlined in the emergency plan immediately as much as you can, if possible. And should you not be able to get in contact with us or anything else, your first point is to go to the hotel lobby. That's our first meeting point. If you can't get to the hotel lobby, then you go to the U.S. consulate. Although we're not all U.S. citizens that are traveling, we are registered with the U.S. consulates and the Department of State, so that's going to be where they're going to be looking for us as well. PSU will start looking for us. So the first point is the lobby of the hotel for which we're staying. Second is the U.S. consulate, and we'll have the phone number and address of the consulates there as well. When we travel and when we get in country, I will also have emergency contact cards that has all of this information and all of the phone numbers that we'll hand out. I'll hand out to those that are traveling at the same time at the airport. We'll also have them in the graduate business programs office a couple weeks before, so if you're able to come by and pick that up, they'll be available for you to pick up. If not, we'll get you them in country as well. It'll also have information for the nearest 24-hour hospitals that we're staying by, so that you don't have to question that. You know exactly where to go if you get sick in the middle of the night. And then it also outlines the emergency communication plan, which is essentially, should anything happen, of course try to get in contact with us, but we will have a phone plan in place. We will obviously contact you on all the major lines as soon as we can. To check in on your status. That would be email, D2L, and if we activate a social media app and choose to activate a social media app, through that social media app as well. So any questions about that? That'll all be posted to D2L. We're just getting our local guides' phone numbers right now, so that's why it's not quite in ready to go yet, but it'll be up there shortly.
So I'll be activating the course about third week of this month. I'll have the syllabus will be there, and all this other information will be there, and you should just check it periodically to see what else we're adding when the trip takes off. But put the team roster so you know who's on the teams, things like that. And it'll have content for both cities. There's a little bit of pre-reading, like this book, parts of this book, and the HP thing, and there's a couple of articles that you should take a look at on how to audit suppliers and things like that. But for the most part, most of it we'll be discussing in class with them.
So, non-US citizens like me.
Yes.
Go to the consulate or US consulate?
You would still go to the U.S. consulate because we're still registered. PSU registers this entire group as a U.S. group with the Departments of State and the U.S. consulates.
They have connections to get. Most of the time, what you go to the consulate for, they're hospital connections.
Right.
And so we have copies of yours, and they have connections to get.
Right. But if they can't find us, they would call the consulates and embassies, the U.S. consulates and embassies, and say, we have a group there. So that's why that's the second point.
If I want to get a jump on the reading now, is it just reading cover to cover?
There's like one chapter I don't have you read. But like I said, the syllabus will be up in a week or so. So that'll be fun. Yes?
Is this actually a thing or is that inside the airport?
No. Well, so there is in Vietnam, but not in China. So that is a good question, is checking in on whether anyone has questions or how their visa processes are going. For Vietnam, though, we do still ask that I definitely recommend getting it ahead of time. It's only $25 through the invitation letters that we sent out. And so that way you have no questions whether you're going to get in when you get there. Additionally, the on-arrival line when you get there can be quite long, so it's an additional step that you have to do when you get to the airport to get out through customs. So that's why we recommend and ask that folks do that ahead of time. Does that make sense? There is an on-arrival process, though, for Vietnam. There's not for China, though. They would not allow you to board the flight if you did not show your visa before.
It takes a day, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going to the Department of Motor Vehicles here.
Yep.
And you go there, it's like a full, you get a number and you sit.
When I go to San Francisco, I can have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you
Absolutely.
if you do it here, it's a lot easier than if you try to do it there.
Yes.
You know how long it takes when I send my passport back?
So
You can
it depends
expedite
upon, yeah, it depends upon what method you use, what provider you
literally
use.
can get it done in a day. But possibly not.
Usually it's looking good for us, right?
So we'll send you invitation letters and instructions for how to do so. You still have to manage your own process, but we give you all the instructions for how to do so.
Well, we use an online process, and it's a little less than 2 weeks turnaround. I didn't
Yeah.
make the expedited service.
They'll quote
It's really easy.
They'll quote 6 weeks, but
Yeah,
almost
they
never
quote
6
6 weeks.
weeks.
Yeah.
But I always
Like $300 or
Yeah,
something like
it was
that for both
expensive.
countries.
It was expensive, but it was worth it. I didn't have to travel 10 permit.
Right.
Yeah, it was for both countries, so came back to both visas in the passport.
And so you passport only traveled once.
So did you use CIBT? Is that who you
I
used?
use HQ.
Oh, okay.
Sounds something.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds similar.
And I've never heard of anybody,
Either one of
regardless
those work.
service they use, using it or anything. I've never heard anything like that.
And mine, I can't say enough good things about mine. I mean, they were very communicative throughout the process, answering questions well. essentially you fill out the form on their site and they generate the paperwork for you, so you don't have to hand fill out the forms that Predeparture are giving to us, which I accidentally did anyway.
You just have to go get the pictures.
Yeah.
That's it.
Visa HQ.
And so just a heads up though, one thing I will forewarn is that for some of you, depending upon how you're applying for your Vietnam visa, you can also, they'll do it either loose leaf, so a separate visa paper. So if you get that, just make sure that you just, I usually just rubber band it into my passport so it doesn't go anywhere, because we have had students lose them. Yeah. Yeah.
But people do lose them, so if you're one of those people, get it so it's glued in your passport and just get it over with.
So, in immigration, the reason I'm asking is every time I get into the US, I have to talk about immigration. So when I get into Vietnam or China, is there anything that I have to be prepared to say, just say, hey, I'm a tourist?
You should be fine, but I would recommend any of you that have concerns about that, just if you're traveling, potentially traveling when I'm traveling, if you are, just hang with me. And I always make sure the people who have the most potential problems are the ones that go last with me through, and then that way, if anything happens, we're there, and we can fix it.
And the thing I would recommend, one, is make sure that you have a printed out version of your entire flight itinerary. That is one, if they're going to ask you for anything, that's what they're going to ask you for. So I try to carry that for everyone that shares that with me, or at least backups, but I don't have everyone. So making sure that you have a printed itinerary of your own entire travel time is what you would want.
Make sure when you do your, if you guys do your own paperwork, not the stuff Rachel recommended, when I think she says put down tourism, don't put down like consulting, teaching a class, going to a class. If you do that, then they'll pull you aside because then they want to talk about taxes. So make sure you use tourism. Okay, that's what you're doing.
And you can call it educational tourism. That's been kind of a phrase that seems to go over just fine.
Okay, so questions from you guys? Questions from people online? Yes.
Simple and stupid power adapters. I mean, is there any difference between
There is.
on Beijing? Okay.
There is in both countries.
And actually, that's something I forgot to mention. So our travel providers are actually providing me with adapters for everyone.
No, that's what I'm bringing.
So I will have some. I'm going to ask that some people, if you can, come by the office and pick them up, so I'm not carrying all of them on behalf of the entire group and getting there. But we do have power adapters, so that's one thing off your list that you don't need to
in both countries,
go
it's
get.
just the two-prong. They don't have the ground.
Yep.
Cut off your ground plug or something. I've seen all of it, so that's good. Really good that we're going to do that this year.
Yeah. Super nice of them. So.
And I've heard lots about the Great Firewall. What are expectations there?
In China, they check every.
Great question.
So this is how it goes in China. When you first arrive and you go to your hotel, you're going to get on wireless, and it's going to be like the hamster is just walking. Hamster wheels really slow because they're checking what you're looking at. And they'll do that the first couple times you get on in the hotel, and then after that it gets faster. But they're checking everything you're looking at. There's no Facebook there, so if you're a social media person, you can't use it. And they will block you out stuff. And it'll frustrate you perhaps. Depends what you look at, but it's slow. The first day you're there, it's really slow.
Is there any video chat for checking in home with kids?
Yeah. Yeah. Hangouts works. Skype works. All of them works. I don't know if FaceTime works. I've never used it there, but Skype and Hangouts work. So. Okay.
Just maybe slow sometimes. About that, but I don't remember why. They have said no. I've asked a couple times.
I'm sorry, DJ.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, any vaccinations that might be recommended for either country?
There are a bunch that doctors will recommend. I don't ever get them, so I don't know what's about. But then I'm full of bacteria and disease, so I don't know.
So I typically just recommend checking with your health provider. We're not in malaria territory in either place, so I know that's a really common question. So I have not gotten malaria vaccinations for either of these travel locations over the years.
If you're going to go somewhere else, anybody that's traveling before or after, if you guys are going to head on to Cambodia or Laos or any of those places, then I would start to consider seriously getting some of the vaccines, because depending on where you're going, there's a lot less protection, and they introduce new bugs and new bacteria and stuff that your body's never had before. So I would be careful. You know, Vietnam and China are pretty much okay, but if you're susceptible to stuff, then you should get it.
Absolutely. And so brings back to the Mekong Delta is the day, the cultural day in Vietnam that we're going to be most likely to be suffering the elements, if you will. So that's the only day that I really recommend bringing a little bit of bug spray for, because we're going to be out on the water. Most of the time we're on a boat, so we're going fast enough that it's not problematic. But if you're sensitive, also obviously bringing sunscreen as far as things to pack.
And if anybody is susceptible, like you just don't do well with heat, then just really, take it easy, go slow. You'll be okay.
So, obviously Saigon, hot and humid, Miami, I guess you call it. What about Beijing? Also hot and humid, or just hot?
Hot and humid.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that
Beijing's kind of got Chicago weather. It's cold and summer in the winter, and it's hot and humid in summer.
Great, I used to live in Chicago.
Perfect.
There you go.
I think the best way to do it is just, if you know it's going to be hot and humid, just psych yourself up for it and wear as cool of clothes as you can and go with it. I mean, it's, hydrate a lot. When we're in the Mekong Delta, there'll be water, just keep hydrating. Just do those things that you would do on vacation. It'll be fine. There's pools at the hotels, and you can hang out at night. Yeah, that's one thing I recommend. If you like to go in the pool or something, bring a bathing suit or something so you have that. Make it a lot better.
Anything else?
So I will say that we talked a lot of the rules and stuff. Every trip we go on in Saigon, everybody loves it. You guys will have fun. I guarantee you. If you don't have fun, something's wrong. Seriously, it's that much fun. The food's great. The people are great. It's a bunch of stuff to see. Beijing's the most historical city there is. I mean, between the two cities, you couldn't have a better fun time for 2 weeks. So, just look at it that way. I mean, there'll be some, I always tell students every once in a while we have a visit go awry, The factory isn't ready for us or something like that. That doesn't happen very often. But that's why it's so important that I also allow you time for culture, so that, it's the whole experience. It's not just what's going on in the classroom or what's going on in the evening. It's both. So we try to aim for that balance. And that's why it's important too that you, so please pace yourself, because, I've only seen this happen once where it worked. I was in Asia for 4 weeks with this guy Davey from Malaysia, and he drank all night and pulled up before we got on the bus to go everywhere, every day in a suit, and he did it for 4 weeks straight. And he partied every night. If you guys can be as good as Davey, then I'm okay with it. But I've never seen anybody survive for that long doing that kind of behavior. So it's really easy, especially the first night. We get there at 10:30. It's like 75, 80 degrees outside. There's bars open everywhere. Let's just go. And then in that cycle, you're burning it at both ends right away. 2 weeks goes really fast, but also can go slow if you just don't. So just pace yourself. You got a whole week there in both places. So. All right, I'll stop preaching. It'll be fun. It always is.
Thanks for your time tonight, guys.
Sure.
Thanks.
If you have any other questions, just send an email to us and we'll answer them. I'm sure there's something that we didn't get to, or as you start to plan your visit and think of things, can I bring this? Can I do that? That's fine.
Yeah, I guess that's a question. I mean, I haven't thought of anything beyond just the school experience or like the day that you're going to be taking us to these different places. Obviously you're going to give us the evenings to do stuff. All of you have done this plenty of times. I mean, what's the expectation for just a tag along, show me something cool,
Absolutely. And so I will I'll tell you that also our providers before, probably about 2 weeks before, I'll post online some cultural guides of suggested things to do in each place as well. So take a look. Also, I usually use Lonely Planet or lots of those travel resources to kind of take a look. And I'll post a couple that I like the most to the D2L site once we get it up. So take a look, but if you have questions as well, especially in country, that's what we're here for. That's also what our local guides are for. They will be ripe with suggestions of places to eat, of things to go see in each location. So.
And there, in each location, there are also not McDonald's type American food. So if you're one of those people that it's okay to raise your hand and say, I don't like Asian food, that's fine. There's plenty of places where you can go, plenty of expat places in both locations. And they're both international cities, so if you rather have Indian food or Mexican food, I mean, you can get all that too.
Mexican food in Saigon, that sounds great.
Be interesting.
Yeah, I was with Mercy Corps in Thailand, and I was with somebody that wanted Mexican food every night. So I went and ate Mexican in Bangkok. Ridiculous. But yeah, so we'll point out stuff for you guys. I mean, I think there's restaurants you'll want to experience that you might read about or hear about from the concierge that we might not want to go to because we've been there, you know.
Many times, right?
So because it might be there, it's famous for the view or something like that, right? And that there is some places like that. Bars at the very top of the highest building. You should go, you know, check it out. So we'll point you in the right direction. You guys will probably, you know, one thing we also do, Rachel didn't mention it, but we will give you a list in every city of the rooms that each of you are in.
Yeah.
So that way, as you group up and connect with each other and want to do things together, you'll know how to get a hold of each other, besides just on your cell phone and you call the room and knock on the phone. So everybody will know where each other are.
Great.
You guys are so polite.
I know. So quiet. All right, online folks, we're going to sign off as well unless you have any final questions. All right.